This is Brandon Hughes coming to you from the College Foundation of West Virginia. As part of our College Talk series, we have with us Brian Weingart, the Senior Director of Financial Aid for the West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission. What is the West Virginia Higher Education Grant?
The West Virginia Higher Education Grant is a need-based grant program that serves West Virginia residents, and so students can use these funds to help pay for college if they meet the criteria.
What does a student have to do to apply for the grant?
All they need to do is file the FAFSA, and so it's the free application for federal student aid. They can go to FAFSA.gov and fill out the FAFSA for the 2019-2020 award year, and that we automatically get a copy of your student's FAFSA, and so as soon as we get that, then we'll determine whether student's eligible or not for the higher education grant.
Is there a deadline for applying?
There is. The deadline's coming up April 15th, and so a student just needs to file or submit the FAFSA by April 15th. Doesn't have to be correct, doesn't have to be signed, just has to be submitted. They can go back and later in and correct it or sign it, but it has to be initially submitted by April 15th.
Can you let us know what are some of the eligibility criteria they need to receive this grant?
There's a couple things the students need to be aware of. If they're coming right out of high school, they need to have a 2.0 high school GPA in order to be eligible. If they're already in college, they just need to have a 2.0 cumulative college GPA in order to be eligible. If they received this grant previously, then they do need to complete 24 credit hours in an academic year and have the 2.0 in order to meet the eligibility requirements for the higher education grant. Obviously, they need to be a resident of West Virginia. They have to demonstrate financial need, and there's some other things, but for the most part, that's what a student needs to meet.
When they after they've applied for it, when can the student find out if they've received the grant?
So April 15th is the deadline, so we haven't told anyone whether they're eligible for the grant or not until after the deadline. But once we hit the deadline, we'll notify the colleges of the students' eligibility and then send out the award notices to the students who are eligible at the beginning of June.
How much is the grant this year?
For right now, it's proposed that the grant maximum amount will be $2,800 for those that are Pell Grant eligible. For those that are above Pell Grant eligibility, not eligible for Pell Grant, they can get up to $2,400 a year.
What colleges can a student use this grant at?
So the West Virginia Higher Education Grant, they can use it in any public 4-year, public 2-year, private nonprofit, some of our for-profit schools in West Virginia, and we also have a reciprocal agreement with public and nonprofit schools in Pennsylvania.
And this grant can be renewed?
Students can renew this grant up to 8 semesters or until they earn their bachelor's degree.
Is there anything else you could say about the higher education grant for us?
They can go to the College Foundation West Virginia website, CFWV.com, and they can get more information not only on the West Virginia Higher Education Grant, but all of our state financial aid programs.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you for joining us today for our College Talk series.
Thank you for having me, Brandon.
Thank you.